Okay, welcome everybody to the fifth installment of our podcast, Skills Quotient. Today I have the pleasure of having Kenny or Kenneth? Kenny or Kenneth? What do you prefer?
Kenny's bloody.
Kenny, all right. Kenny Bench with us on the podcast today, where we'll be talking about AI for enterprise and whether or not humans are going to be basically obsolete in terms of work in the next couple of years. I've known Kenny now for a couple years, since 2023.
2-3 years now?
Yeah, 2-3 years now. We play golf sometimes. We work together, so we've known each other for a little bit now, and I'm very excited to share and see what he has to say about AI in the world of tomorrow.
Yeah, perfect.
Without further ado, Mr. Kenny, over to you.
Yeah, thank you for having me on here. I'm super excited to be able to talk, and like always, AI is the topic that's on everybody's head. So, and I never seem to get tired of talking about it anyway. So, no, very happy to be here. Talk about it a little bit more. Yeah.
Sure. So maybe if you can, I think for folks, be interesting to understand a little bit more about your background first. Who is Kenny? And then maybe if you want to talk a little bit more about your career and what it is that you do exactly today.
Sure. So, my background comes from quite a few different things. Did accounting, did analysis, worked in various other fields. But for the past, over 10 years now, my focus has been in technology and technology consulting, which has then evolved quite a bit more into product development. And then now with the recent advances of AI, then it's, for the past several years, our focus has been very heavily into AI type solutions and how does that fit into a bunch of different types of solutions, whether it's for small companies, for enterprise class clients, or even just small product companies as well and startups. So it's a very exciting field that's always been quite challenging, given that technology always moves quite fast. But the pace over the past 2 years has just been absolutely relentless with some of the major advances in AI, and I'm sure everybody kind of feels the same. In a way, super excited. But in a lot of ways, overwhelmed.
Mm-hmm. Cool. I just want to backtrack a little bit to understand how did that shift, because this is also a podcast about skills and learning, right? So I'm curious, why did you shift from accounting and more of like a finance background to tech? How did that, what was the reasoning behind that?
A lot of that was because there was much more opportunity in the tech world, more so than being on the analyst side or just the accounting side. So, obviously you can be successful no matter which path you take. It's really about trying to find something that works really well with you or that is naturally compatible with you, that allows you to build up expertise. And through expertise is where you find your happiness and your success, right? But for me, it was also another matter because I'm endlessly curious, right? Always kind of studying, looking at stuff all the time. But I felt that there's a lot more opportunity in technology. But the last aspect of it that I really liked more of technology than anything else was the fact that you actually get the ability to build something. It's like being a very good woodworker or a very good metal crafter or an engineer of some sort, right? Where you actually be able to get to create and build something. But in all those other areas, like with woodworking, there's a high barrier to entry given all the materials and costs. But with technology, you're endlessly able to build whatever you want. And the barrier to entry is quite low and the cost of entry is quite low. So in that sense too, for me, it was that aspect where I wanted to learn and be able to do this because then it allows me to build stuff.
Okay. Yeah. So you wanted to add value through the act of creation, adding value, creating things, seeing them come to life, et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah.
Okay, fair. Sounds good. And tell us a little bit more about your company now, KeyTechX. What is KeyTechX? What does it do? What do you guys stand for,
Sure.
et cetera?
So we are a technology consultancy. So we help a lot of companies, I was listening to a YouTube video the other day about another consultancy, and the way that he sums up his work is the same way I sum up my work as well, which is we get to build really cool stuff, right? And for us, we want to ensure that we are the partner that not only is able to help people shape and refine their ideas and understanding, but really be the technology partner that helps drive growth and innovation. There's tons of great companies out there that will kind of help you build a lot of stuff and follow the direction and the vision that you're looking for. But it's even more rare to find a company that can help you more deeply understand that, push the boundaries a little bit more, and then one has the research and development and technical capacity and team capacity that allows us to build, things that are very much on the cutting or bleeding edge. Right.
Okay. So that was a lot of buzzwords.
Yeah.
I'm kidding.
Thanks.
But okay, cool. But if you had to kind of, okay, let's imagine that you're talking to a really non-technical person, because in the tech field, people like to maybe not embellish, but they make things sound. I mean, finance is a bit similar too, but
everybody.
Yeah, everybody tries to sound smart. No, like sounds really smart. So I guess let's try to distill it down. Like, what is it that you do on a daily basis, or what is it that you do with your clients?
We build very boring stuff on a day-to-day. Really, that's the life of a technology consultant. We're writing code. We're building systems that are performant. And all joking aside, I mean, in reality, we're a technical consultancy, so we help people refine their ideas and bring those ideas into reality, whatever that might be.
So let's imagine that a client comes to you with a project in mind, or there's some problem that they want to solve that revolves around technology. They'll come to you and they'll ask for your advice, and you'll help them not just give them advice, ideally, but you'll also give them support to implement that solution or that thing. Right?
Correct. Yeah.
Okay. Because I think a lot of people, when they think about consultants, and more often than not, consultants tend to just give advice, and they're kind of not liked because they don't do anything but give advice and then don't take their own advice. So what you're telling me is that you give advice, and it's good advice, and you actually help your clients to implement that in a successful way.
Yeah. And we've had experience. Me and my team are very senior, so we've had a lot of experience building hundreds of different applications across a wide variety. We understand what it takes to build a SaaS product versus an internal application. What does it mean to have an AI system that is prototyping versus what is production quality and production grade, as well as like global compliance, regulatory compliance, and a few other things. There's because we have such a breadth of experience, we bring all of that with us in order to ensure that not only can we build what you want, but we bring a lot of the expertise that we've built over time in order to help make sure that it really is not just meeting the expectations about what you told me, but more about meeting the expectations of the unsaid expectations.
I see. And okay, so it's more, so it's really about going above and beyond and thinking more big picture and really adding value to the client by making sure that maybe sometimes they don't know what they don't know.
Sure.
And therefore you as a specialist are supposed to come in and be like, okay, from all our experience and everything that we've seen, these are the things that you should be conscious about and think about as you think through this.
And this is what people ultimately want, right? They want us to come in as the technology experts, as the technology partners, that not only tell them where their expectations are wrong or help them refine it, but ensure that also we're building this thing to be scalable and it helps meet more of their business needs and their growth goals, versus then just you asked me to build A and I built A. Right.
So you're not just a robot.
Yeah, pretty much.
Basically.
Try to be.
Sort of like AI.
Yeah, pretty much.
Okay. All right.
I'm the early form of AI.
Okay. And so, okay. And then right now, I guess, can you tell us about some exciting projects that you're working on at KeyTechX? Like what do you guys, what gets you up in the morning?
There's a lot of stuff right now actually that is very interesting. So we're building out, working with a few clients on certain type of SaaS products, and SaaS products are always quite complex in and of itself. We're building some of our own products as well, which is always a lot of fun because then we get to really explore things on our own and kind of do things our way. But in terms of more some of the other things that we're building or prototyping right now, that gets into a lot of AI type projects where we're working on more advanced computer vision systems that can run on the edge for much more powerful license plate detection, as well as what we're calling the vehicle fingerprint, and this is for one of our clients, Curb. because they're driving to improve safety, security, but also take smart city and mobility and parking to the next level. So I mean that project is quite cool because it's we're working on and building out a lot of models and ideas that currently don't exist on the market, which is fun. For other types of AI projects, we're working on different types of RAG-based systems like vector or graph RAG, depending on the application, what we're looking for to be used. Internally for us, it's like we're using it for requirements writing, given that a lot of our client projects are quite large. So, trying to maintain an understanding of all those requirements is quite challenging. So building our internal system that allows us to accurately understand all the requirements in the past, but even more so help us to do things like write requirements is quite cool. But that same exact pattern we're using out to build prototypes for some construction clients in order to help them with proposal generation.
Okay.
And then there's we're also looking into research type AI systems that can understand Grok research paper and internal research systems in order to help advance research through synthetic data. Actually, let me pause that part.
We can come back to that. Yeah. That's fine. And I guess today at KeyTechX, what kinds of clients are you mainly focused on? And what I mean by that is that more like SMEs versus, or you prefer to go for enterprise? And even if you have certain clients in a certain segment today, it doesn't mean that that's necessarily who you're trying to go after. So what does your ideal kind of client look like?
It kind of falls into like two major categories. One where it's and I guess the way we more cut this up is more as like startups or very aggressive small to medium enterprises that are looking to push the envelope, build a product, and try to disrupt or kind of cause a splash basically. Because those are really interesting, because then at that point that's where we're really building like bleeding edge or cutting edge systems, working with research groups in order to build new models. Like that's quite cool. And the other side of it are large enterprise class clients that are trying to solve like larger problems, which are endless in their complexity, but mostly just because the size and scale of it is quite a big challenge. So those are the kind of two main groups that we're working with.
So you're on both sides of the spectrum. You're on the small side because it's exciting, new products, bleeding edge, innovation, and then you're with the big boys or big girls because projects are really big also, and probably they pay well.
Yeah, but then also it's kind of weird because there seems to be, and again it's we a lot of times the way we pick our clients is like, do we really like them? Can we work with you for many years? But also it's there's a weird gap that's forming like right in the middle, like where we're never, it's like they're kind of at that middle ground, and for some reason we're never really at a good fit for them. So it's either you're quite large or you're quite small. That whole middle gap is
I mean, to be fair, it's been known that that's usually where companies go to die. It's kind of being in the middle. It's like you're not really in any one thing. So I probably think that focus is probably your ally in this case.
Yeah.
Okay, let's shift gears a little bit. Okay, so I think we have a pretty good idea about KeyTechX, what it is that you guys do.
We build cool stuff.
Build cool stuff. Yeah, I mean, hopefully at the end of the day, that's the main thing, right?
Yeah.
Build cool stuff that adds value, ideally.
Yeah, it's like the practical cool stuff. I think we should call it that. We build cool practical stuff.
Yeah,
how about that?
That's good. That's a good positioning. I guess let's maybe shift towards more AI in general.
Sure.
I think let's gloss over the kind of generic stuff that people are talking about, but I'd like to know, in your view, so far there hasn't been like a really killer use case yet for AI. And what I mean by that is there is not yet like some use case that is generating hundreds of billions of dollars in revenue at scale in a repeatable way.
Yeah.
And a lot of folks are saying, AI is basically a black hole of money sucking, funding, like destroying IP technically. So I guess in your view, is there a killer use case? If it does come around, what might it be? And do you think that all the money going into AI can be justified? when we're seeing companies like OpenAI, raising at $300 billion in valuation, still burning a lot of money. There's Anthropic recently raised more money, or was it Claude? Well, I guess Anthropic is Claude, sorry.
Yeah.
So yeah, it seems like there's just a ton of money going into this industry, and the question really is this justified?
That's
there's a lot of questions.
Yeah, there's a lot of questions
question.
there.
So we can break it down.
Yeah, so like let's start with the first question first, which was like, what is the $1 billion idea? Like, there's no way I can answer that. If I could answer that, I would have built it.
You would be yeah.
And then I wouldn't be here, right? But that idea, eventually, I don't think there will ever be a singular $1 billion idea. I think that several will come out, but right now, there's just a lot of thrash in the market with everybody trying everything. It's very hyper competitive. The barrier to entry has been lowered even more. So a lot of companies are pumping out AI products like none other. Everything it becomes hyper competitive. Like one example. So we built a product for ourselves internally, which we call Sentra, which helps us to write unit tests for our code. When we first started writing on this project, there was nobody else in the market for this. So we were one of the first people to go to market, and now there's quite a large number of competitors. So there's no real way to ensure a moat at this point. So because you can't have a moat, you probably can't have the singular $1 billion idea. It's too easy for that moat to get dried up. Okay, but the bigger question is it worth it, right? And this is. It depends on your business and whatever else. But so my real focus again is the practical implementation of software and AI, right? So given that, the one thing that I spend a lot of time talking to companies about is you have to be hyper focused, right? If you hyper focus, AI can have massive rewards, right? Massive benefits. And I always tell people the way you should start with an AI project is something that will generate revenue, or something that will create or improve upon your competitive advantage. And if you start hyper-focused, AI is very good, right? Because again, AI is this kind of big amalgamous thing, and there's a lot of prototyping happening, and a lot of projects die at the prototype phase because they're not as focused as they need to be. And this is where strategy, architecture really come into play. Hyper-focus on revenue, hyper-focus on competitive advantage, and you can reap massive rewards, right? And this is it gets back down to the boring side of AI, the everyday use of AI that people don't really actually see, but those are the ones that create value. All this flashy stuff is fun and very interesting, and we love to play with a bunch of stuff as well, but those have less of a probability of actually creating an ROI or making a lasting impact. Right?
Okay. So if I have to summarize that, it would be hyper-focus, basically start with the end in mind. What is it that you really want to accomplish? Because right now everyone's just kind of blanket AI this, AI that, and whatever, and it just doesn't solve anything. And actually, I think I read an interesting stat that most AI implementations today fail.
Yeah.
I think it was a large majority of them fail. And it's
70,
not because of the tech.
80% of them all fail.
Yeah, and it's not because of the tech itself inherently. It's because us as humans don't know why we want to use this thing. We think it's the shiny thing, but we don't know how to implement it and apply it.
And that's exactly correct. I mean, it is very, very, it's more challenging than people think to actually create a strategy around AI that, again, will create that lasting effect, right? Because in many ways, people still feel that, AI is so broad, let's do everything with it, or let's create just a knowledge base, or they apply it too broadly. And there's just a lot of reasons why that will fail. It comes out initially, the prototype looks good, it becomes a toy that people play with for a few months, and then they just stop. Right?
Okay. So I guess my follow-up question to that is, are we in a bubble? With all the money that's going into AI, does it really justify the hundreds of billions of dollars that have gone into this industry so far?
Man, that's a tough question. I would probably say the answer is yes. I think we are in a bubble, and I think there will be a collapse and a correction. I do think that there are two reasons for that. Primarily, one is because there's such a flood in the market right now. Like even if we talk about YouTube, right? And I know this is a little bit controversial as well too, but like, the content creators were pumping out so much AI slop, getting that in YouTube, trying to monetize against that. There's now the policy. How are they going to do that? And that's up to them. But because that they had to cut that off, right? So all of that monetization on AI generated content is now stopped, right? So, and I think a lot of other companies are going to go down that path. Like a lot of AI products today have a huge issue with ARR. They'll grow fast, they'll show really good numbers, but those numbers will fluctuate. And again, do people even renew after the first year? There's a huge chance that the answer is no. Right now, people are getting very excited, and investors are getting very excited because there's very fast adoption. But what people really need to look at is at the company level, because these AI products are so cheap and they're subsidized by investors or by AWS or Azure, a bunch of other groups, or seed or family, right? Because of that, and the price is so cheap, for a company to say, hey, I'm going to evaluate an AI product that does X, go subscribe to 30, 40, 50 of them. It doesn't matter, right? And just go evaluate them all very fast. But then almost all of them will get cut, right? Because they're not actually subscribing for long-term subscription. They're subscribing just to be able to go play with it very quickly. But because the price is so low and the use cases are so similar, that ARR is going to die out, right? And people are just going to sign up for a month and die. So a lot of those numbers are very fly-by-night. So given all of that, those two areas are going to contribute to it. But the biggest contribution to the popping of this bubble, or what will, I think ultimately lead to the end, is production-ready environments and compliance. So basically, another thing that I talk a lot about right now is prototype versus production. Prototype, you're asking the question of, is it possible? You're trying to answer that question. Yes. Prototype answers yes, this is possible. But the production question is very different. The production question is, what happens when it goes wrong? And a lot of companies are building stuff that is a great prototype, but it's not production ready. And on the back of that, all this regulatory policies are going to start coming into action, like the EU AI Act, which is then going to require companies to be compliant at that level. And again, if you're not production ready and you're not compliant, a lot of these companies are going to fail.
Big doo-doo.
And yeah, the question is, because they didn't ask the question, what happens when it goes wrong? A lot of things are going to go wrong. And when that happens, then the company goes bust, right? Like, because you've now caused a massive issue. An insurance claim was, denied when it shouldn't have. That causes a lawsuit. Construction safety system fails to capture or fails to report on, and then somebody gets hurt, right? Or in a financial situation, an incorrect investment was happened, or a safety mechanism wasn't caught, and then at that point, the AI, the system itself has failed in its responsibility. Now there's liability, and blah, 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 that causes through. So people are trying to move fast and loose, which is, again, the way the world normally works. But given those fallouts, yeah, I actually do think we're in a bubble. Yeah.
Okay, so yeah, just what we were kind of discussing. Let's take a bit of a deeper dive into enterprise use cases for AI and technology in general. But let's focus a bit more on the AI side, because that's, I think, a bit more salient to what people want to hear about. So yeah, what have you seen? Where's the money going? How's it being implemented? Yeah.
Sure. So this is actually, I think this is actually a very good topic, because a lot of people have this perception that AI that's actually being used in the real world is super advanced. But the reality of it, and where the money is going and where companies are actually investing money into, is back to the very practical and somewhat boring applications of AI, right? So a lot of what we're seeing from the enterprise class clients is a lot of use around tools like Microsoft Fabric, right? Which is an Azure platform that allows you to connect data sources, and then pipeline that in, using a semantic model that then allows it to categorize it, store it, and then access it, and then do something with it, like Power BI. So, and this is where a lot of the companies are really focused on is very practical use cases. We have information in PDFs and Excel sheets, in databases, and it's all disparate. And we have we're struggling on how to get that consolidated into a format that then allows us to do something with it, which is the foundation of what everybody needs to do in order to start doing AI at some level. Data is always key, right? So that's where a lot of the money is going into, is again those initial preparatory steps. And once we pipeline that, then you can do small prototypes, which is where other companies are looking into if they have, if their data is a little bit more organized and already consolidated, where, can we do a type of RAG, an LLM retrieval to help us start doing a few things. Like I want to understand, if I'm want to work towards a proposal generative model, like how do I, in the past for all of my construction projects, how have we written, sections that have to do with, bridge work or awnings or, schools, right? So this way, then that allows them to access, all of that previous knowledge base, consolidate it, and then start to do something with it, right? Or a few other use cases, again, are very, narrow and quite conservative. Like with marketing is another good example of where, marketing teams are getting a lot of data that's, from all their marketing platforms. It is quite disparate, but the question that they're asking is like, how do we start to get that into a way that allows us to do not just deeper analytics, but then also start to work with it and an AI model to do more advanced stuff, right? And so that's, again, that's a Fabric type build where data consolidation, pipelining, using Power BI and other systems in order to do analytics, support analytics, and then connecting another LLM to that in order then allows it to create, actionable insights. Now, a lot of these AI systems aren't taking action on themselves. They're more like collaborative, and they're mainly like, I guess, the easier term for this is like co-pilots. They're assistants to the humans that enable them to do things better or faster. Or like a customer 360 is another good example, again, where we're consolidating information from a CRM, sales databases, as well as other information that we have on the client from separate systems, and then again pipelining that allows us to get a better analysis and support systems for customer service or sales, right? So it's very practical use cases, and again, those applications are a little bit more kind of what I recommend, which are a little bit more focused. But that's where a lot of the enterprise class clients are looking at. We've made some suggestions for some clients, like let's do a really cool computer vision model that monitors warehouse workers to talk about efficiency, mapping of walking paths, to talk about inventory placement optimizations. And it sounds cool.
That's a mouthful.
It sounds really cool. Like, oh, that'd be great if we can optimize our inventory storage. So this way it's faster for people to pick and pull, and then also optimize our warehouse layout. Like, oh, that's very cool. But the fact of the matter is, it's nobody really wants it.
Yeah. It's the shiny thing.
Yeah, it's very shiny. It sounds cool, but again, it's people aren't investing into that.
Yeah, just the other day I was talking to a prospect, and they use AI for billing because historically they've done everything by hand. Yeah. So now they use AI just to handle their billing, consolidate the billing, analyze the billing, and then just make them very nice, tidy reports. Yeah. And I was like, that's a very simple but very effective use case of technology.
It saves a lot of time, it creates value, and it's something that's long lasting, right? And that's the thing. Practical applications of AI are long lasting, right? The cool, shiny things are fun, but they get stopped at a prototyping phase, or they might not have a good ROI given that those are heavy to implement, right?
And I guess, so there's been actually one of the what I see as one of the more recent killer use cases, killer quote unquote, of AI was in the development field, as in like coding. Yeah. So I guess, what are your thoughts on that? Because we've seen some mini scandals with like Builder AI where it just ended up being 700 devs in India coding for this, like pretending to be AI. Yeah. But we are seeing good examples.
Deleting the entire production database.
Production database, correct. So I guess from an enterprise perspective, how useful are tools like Lovable, Replit, Cursor, and so on and so forth?
It kind of depends. Like, so there's actually a large company we were talking to just recently, and this is the exact question they asked. Like, you know, am I able to replace a lot of my devs with AI? And the answer to that, and then where, like, how do you actually utilize AI in a development environment? And a lot of that comes down to kind of more of a use case, like having an AI system in a large legacy application. And leaving it to be autonomous to make a lot of changes is very bad. I think I was watching something recently about a study from Stanford where they talked about different levels of AI adoption from development teams and what are the real world efficiencies that are gained out of it, and it was actually very little. And I think that's correct. Like in a legacy existing application, it's very challenging for any AI, and it's very challenging for any human to work in it. Like onboarding still takes a month for a developer, right? So in that sense, it's great as an assistant. Again, if you have a specific question, like we really love Claude Code, right? So if you if you have the code base on your computer and you give it a bug and you kind of give it a few points of where to start and ask it to do traceback and help you understand what are the cascading effects of that, it can do a pretty good job and help you kind of lead you in the right direction. I wouldn't trust it to make all those changes by myself. But where the area where, from a development standpoint, where, for us ourselves too, but are seeing huge productivity and efficiency gains is prototyping greenfield projects, or if your system follows like a microservices approach and some of the services are quite small, then those are the areas where it can help out. Like my team, that my PO and BA teams, right? We almost never write requirements by hand anymore. We've built, again, the RAG graph system that allows us to store all of our knowledge repository of the application, all of our requirements from the past. So mainly it's our POs interacting with that language system that we built in order to deeply understand, the system and understand how these new requirements might affect that, and then working with that system in order to have it write, very good user stories, very good acceptance criteria, but more importantly, catching all the edge cases that need to be considered, which might have an effect on different areas of the application, right? Or UI UX is also a very good spot, right? It's very easy to give a system your design principles, give it examples of your common components, your primary, secondary, tertiary colors, and then it can kind of mimic what you do, right? You'll give it a few screenshots, do a little bit of training on that, and the system can accurately help you create mocks that are easy to edit. But then even then, when it's done, you kind of have a lot of the code already there. So then your team just has to massage that or adjust a little bit and then connect it to the back end, right? So greenfield applications, and like smaller isolated systems, and then again, more on the productivity on the requirements side, understanding business analysis, and, UI, UX, yeah.
Got it, clear. Let's shift gears again a little bit now. So we've talked about the technical implications and how enterprises are kind of thinking about implementing AI within their organizations, but oftentimes we ignore the human aspect of things, which is actually where most change management takes place, and the reason why projects make it or break. So I guess what's your advice in general for enterprises today to be AI ready for the future? Or even now, not even the future. But like now.
I guess it kind of goes back to that first little bit of advice, which is if this is your first foray, start on revenue, start on competitive advantage. Do that first so it sets a good precedent and a good tone within your organization of how AI can be assistant. The second step of this is to build AI systems as co-pilots. Build them with the focus, not so much as reduction of headcount, build them with the focus of empowering the current team.
So humans in the loop.
Yeah, keep the human loops, right? And this is where you have to build that system out in order to be able to track, report on but then also engage with and work with the human teams in order to empower them a lot more. And then from there, then that creates a much larger effect where it can allow your company to grow without additional headcount, right? So now each of your people are equivalent to 10, and then use that to grow us first. But start with the initial mindset of a co-pilot, not as a replacement tool.
And concretely though, when you so you're coming at it from a very technical perspective, but for, let's say, a non-technical person, I'm an accountant, I don't know anything about AI. How do I convince, if I'm an enterprise, how do I convince these folks and help prepare them for a world with AI and make them apply these use cases, right? Or, sorry, make them apply AI for the use cases that they've identified make sense for them.
Sure.
Because it's quite daunting if you're not tech savvy, basically.
Yeah. Oh, it's super daunting, right? Again, because of the rapid pace and because it's so expansive already. Like, a lot of people don't even know where to start, right? And that's the hard part. So, but I think, especially for larger organizations, the best place to start really is starting out with basic education, demystify it, right? Help them to understand how these systems actually work. Because then at that point, like if it feels like magic to the team, then they don't know how to work with it. It's intangible. But if they understand the basics of how these systems work, and I would actually explain it to people on a technical level, like how does it generate text, right?
AI for dummies.
Yeah, pretty much.
Okay.
Start with the very basics right there. And then, obviously give them the understanding of how to use it in a safe way, what to do, what not to do. You do need to have internal governance policies in place. And again, that sets the boundaries of how to use it and how not to use it. And then from there, start very small, right? And again, build something that does something quite tiny, or have them use the desktop version of one of these frontier models in a very limited way, right? And you just have to start getting them to explore it. And then, you do need to have workshops on helping them to understand what is possible with these AI systems. But most importantly, you need to have, a partner or an internal person that understands what does it mean to actually build these to be production ready.
Okay.
Because then at that point, then we can build systems that then become actual co-pilots, assistants that enable the team to work with it better and start to get them into the process of becoming more comfortable with it, because it's a very uncomfortable subject. But if you ask most people, their first fear is it's going to replace me.
Yeah, because they don't understand how it really works.
So that's where you demystify it first.
But also, to be fair to them, what most of these employees see are layoffs, quite literally.
Yeah.
In big companies, unfortunately.
Yeah, I mean, how many tech companies do we see nowadays bragging that, like, oh, I've let go 50% of my developers because of AI. I fired this entire team because of AI. So, and again, it is kind of a harsh thing to say, but so let's just address that question, right? Is AI going to replace a lot of people? And sadly, the answer is absolutely yes. So how, then the next question, I guess, that people are having in the back of their mind, I don't want to use it because then I protect myself, which is actually the incorrect way to think about it. The only way to protect yourself is by upskilling. You have to learn. You have to start learning how these systems work. You have to start learning how to utilize them. You have to start, improving yourself to become, the AI empowered person, right? You have to know how to use and build these systems as a co-pilot, right?
Yeah, there was somebody who said, I don't know who quoted it, but I'll paraphrase, but essentially it was something along the lines of, you won't necessarily be replaced by AI, but you will be replaced by somebody who knows how to use AI.
Yeah, correct, yeah.
Right, and I think that's generally true. So I think the general reaction is, oh, I need to reject this and try to protect myself, but the only real protection you have is basically by making yourself irreplaceable at the end of the day.
Yeah, it's, this is, everybody talks about how this is, the next largest revolution, right? The Industrial Revolution did, replace a lot of people, create new jobs elsewhere, and so forth. And yes, there will still be that same effect with AI, where yes, initially it will replace a lot of people, it will create other jobs elsewhere. But the fact of the matter is, I think this will be a lot more impactful than, the Industrial Revolution. So again, the idea is this is inevitable. It's going to happen. Either you get on board or that wave is going to come and wash you over.
Right. And I think as well, hopefully, if we use this ethically and we do a good job of it, I think the underlying idea is that it will help humans to focus on higher ROI things, and for us to focus on things that are either more meaningful, more beneficial to society in general. Do you think that that's true, or is just we're going to evolve in such a way that we're still going to be slaves in a different way?
Yeah.
It's more of a philosophical question, but
it is, and the whole idea of capitalism comes into it, right? Capitalism won't, generally based on history, doesn't allow that to happen. It just allows for more,
more efficiency, more productivity.
Yeah. I guess the more harsh word to say it is exploitation.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah.
But where I guess my philosophy on this, and especially with my company, is that, in our field, like outsourcing consultancy, a lot of it has to come through in order to grow, in order to create more revenue. I must have more headcount, right? Headcount equals throughput equals billable hours equals revenue and growth, right? So that's how it happens. It's quite linear. Whereas the way I'm thinking about this now is, in the past, a 20-some odd development group, wouldn't be able to work with some of these large enterprise class companies because they would just say, no, you're too small to work with us. But whereas now what my focus is, again, is the empowerment of my team members. So now with a 20-some odd person team, we can compete and work with, at a 10x scale. So I don't need to have a large team. So my focus now as a company isn't so much as just pure revenue growth, it's revenue per head count is the value that I'm looking at. And my goal and my hope is that I can drive that extremely high, given that each of my team members, are highly empowered, but also the fact that, we have the ability to build our own tools and our own processes and our own systems, our own agents. We can build these ourselves, so we can continue to build everything that we need in order to help us grow exponentially. Right? So that's, if a company, I would suggest to most companies to actually start to focus on that aspect, not so much as just pure and limited growth or reduction of headcount. It's just, again, every company is their own. But for me, I would really suggest for a lot of companies to really look at revenue per head and how to improve that.
Okay, interesting. And talking about revenue per head, some of the use cases recently, beyond just the development side, have also been on the customer service side, sales side. And I see a lot of companies, the first place they look is, hey, let's make support and customer service more automated using AI. And on the sales side, it's, hey, okay, maybe parts of the funnel could be handled by AI while we figure out how to replace a human salesperson with AI. What's your take on that?
So I guess my take on that is the answer is yes, it's definitely possible. There's definitely a lot of areas in this, like a sales and customer service process, that can be, fully covered by AI. Right, starting with the customer service side, just, again, we've been able to build a knowledge base over our system that we've built for our client curve. Given we have that knowledge base and we're able to have it fully understand, then the next little bit is just, giving it access to a few more areas and constraining it to do customer service. So even right now, a lot of our sales teams are using our internally built system in order to help us better understand some information, right? And, but so given we can use it internally, can we expose it to our end clients? The answer is yes, right?
And so if you're a customer service executive or manager or whatever today, what would you do actually?
If I was a customer service manager, yeah, I mean, kind of I would go to that direction, right? Depending on, you know, what it is we do, whether it's a service or whether it's a SaaS platform or whatever else. I mean, I would really start to focus on building out your knowledge base. Like the first step of any really good AI is the consolidation of your data. I would really focus on that, and then building an internal prototype, which then can act as a co-pilot, build that a little bit more, and then, you know, taking that next step to make it production ready, and then still using it internally, and eventually slowly graduate that to be customer facing, monitor that closely, and then at
Just
that point,
reiterate.
you have to just continue improving it. But it's a very viable and achievable, you know, use case even today. Yeah.
Do you think that is equally true for more complicated types of customer service, or is this limited to simpler types of customer service?
So this goes back into kind of another topic that I like a lot and I talk to people about, which is what are called cascade evaluation models. So the big difference between prototype and production is a cascade evaluation, or any type of evaluations, right? But I really prefer the cascade evaluation. So if it's able to solve the problems easily, then it can, you know, is able to take action. If it's a little bit more complex, then maybe we have to use a much more powerful system, right? But on the highest complexity, the humans will always get involved again, and they should get involved again.
Okay.
Because there's a lot of nuance there. There's a lot of things that need to be handled, right? There's a lot of use cases that your knowledge base can't cover. But also it goes into two other aspects, which is, you know, the first one is eventually going to be compliance. Like this is a compliance aspect that people will require. But the other fact of the matter is, again, it's just, you know, for those high touch, high, you know, quality points, a human can't replace them fully.
Okay. So you're saying there's levels to this essentially.
Yeah.
So okay.
Like, you know, most of them are quite small. Like, oh, I'm having trouble logging in. Like, great. Let an AI handle that one. But whereas the most complex aspect, you know, like, then yeah, graduate that, elevate that down to up to a human in order to do that full interaction, so they have the highest quality. And again, you know, that enables your team to focus on things that are most important, but also creates and it creates the most value for your company and creates the most value for the client, right? So everybody benefits from that, right?
So still humans in the loop to some degree.
Yeah, absolutely.
And then the rest automate as much as possible.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, got it. And then sales, what's your take on that?
So that's actually a use case that I really like a lot, because I'm very not good at sales. So actually, we have built our own business development rep as well, which is still kind of being prototyped. We're still testing it out in different phases, but it's running right now to a certain degree, heavily monitored.
What do you make it do today? Like, what are that's, because we talked about levels. Yeah. So for you, let's call it your AI BD. What does your AI BD do?
So right now, what it does is it helps do, so when we give it the information about somebody who's responded to us or somebody we want them to go research and do an outbound for, what they do then is it will do a deep analysis on the entire industry. It'll do deep analysis on the company. It'll do analysis of that person. We'll create a disc profile. From there, it'll take all of that information. And then at that point, this is where we have a collaborative back and forth with us and the AI in order to help it better understand how to position KeyTechX and what to approach them about. Okay. A lot of the ideas will come from it. Actually, because that's part of what it's made to do, is come up with ideas on what we can do and how do we engage. And a lot of that is a back and forth engagement to refine that. And then at that point, it'll start the outbound, but all of its outreach will come to us first, whether we approve it or deny it. If we approve it, then we allow it to take that next action. Okay. Right, and it just goes step by step.
So it's still not. It's not 100%.
No, because this is the big difference between a prototype and production, right?
Yeah.
Like prototype is, can we get it to work? And so that's where we're still very much in that prototyping phase, where can we get this thing to really work the way we would love it to work? And we're still much in that phase, and so that's why it has a lot of guardrails around it. The production one is, again, what we'll have to do is once we get it to refine a lot more, then we'll build out Now that we understand the quality of each step and what we're looking for, then we can build the evaluations around that. And then at that point, it's able to take a lot of its own action by itself. And that's when we'll enable that. And then there'll be an elevated level where it'll trigger us to get involved if necessary. So it's still very much in the prototyping phase.
Because what you describe right now is what many call like a AI SDR, or a sales development representative. So the job usually, typically across most enterprises, that an SDR will take an inbound lead, or they will do some outbound as well, depends on how the company has structured it. And essentially their role is to qualify that lead, like you said, do some information, some background checking, qualify it, and then it gets handed over to an account executive or a BD, whatever, BD manager, etc., who then handles more of the demo or I'm talking more specifically about B2B sales in tech. And then they'll do the negotiation, closing, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So what you're describing to me seems to be more what we call this AI SDR kind of role.
It's just that very first initial step.
Part of the funnel.
Correct, yeah.
Okay.
The very top, yeah.
And do you think that in the future, so my view, right, we've discussed this a little bit, is that it's going to be very hard for the full sales cycle to be replaced by an AI, at least in the near to medium term, especially as you go up market. So from the moment you go what I consider mid-market to enterprise, it's a lot more relational, kind of relationship-driven sales and consultative selling. My view is that you can replace sales for smaller tickets, kind of SME-related stuff. So you can, I mean, that's the kind of the whole principle of what we call product-led growth, or kind of like self-service, right? SaaS. So I go on, I view your website, I'm able to purchase stuff myself because everything is kind of very clearly explained. So I think an AI BD or AI SDR is going to be able to handle that. But my view is that once you get to kind of like, you have more than one stakeholder, you need to kind of map out the organization, you need to figure out who you need to be talking to, get them all in a room, ask them questions about their business cases. That's kind of where it's going to kind of start to have a lot more trouble.
In many ways, I would agree. But in some ways, I would disagree. I think sales will eventually get to a little bit deeper into past the medium level and into the enterprise a little bit more. The reason why I say that is because there was a highly controversial study by a research group in Switzerland. And so there is a subreddit, I believe it's called like Change My Mind, where the whole subreddit is focused on engaging with people in an active debate in order to change their mind about some quite controversial topic, right? A Swiss research group created agents, released them into that subreddit with, obviously without telling anybody that they're AI agents. And the position they took, again, was actually quite controversial. It's a really interesting read. I would recommend everybody go read it. But based on their study, they found that the AI systems were 3 to 4 times more convincing than any human. So again, this is, they were engaging in a forum where people were already in a different mindset to actively engage and actively be in a mindset to change their mind. And they took a very controversial stance with this. So you have to take it with a massive grain of salt. But the fact of the matter is that, if AI is able to achieve this, then, is it possible that it can move to the higher end sales? And I would say absolutely yes.
I'll counter that and say, in many elections, right, we have around like democratic elections around the world, we have like internet trolls, so to speak, that basically spam the entire internet and are able to kind of change thinking. And those are not necessarily AI, those are just kind of like bot accounts and whatnot. I guess there's a certain element of like automation to them, but they can already do that. So while this study I think is interesting, I don't know if that necessarily translates directly to enterprise sales in and of itself. I feel like there is a big gap between what you see on social media and how that influences you from there to like having a board director meeting with C-suite of Fortune 500 companies and trying to multi-thread, like what does this person want? They're doing some politicking internally, and like this dude or this lady is trying to whatever get this job or whatever. And these are their KPIs. So I think I would agree that AI can make a large influence and change and alter our mindset and psychology, but I don't know that I would necessarily make the conclusive jump that is equally applicable to enterprise.
I mean, not directly one-to-one, again, because, there is, obviously, and rightfully so, I think there is like a growing mistrust of AI. But given that in that level of sales, a lot of it is face-to-face, a lot of it is meetings, right? A lot of it is, dinner and drinks, right? So obviously at that level, I mean, the digital realm will end and the physical realm and human interaction, there's no other way to move that forward, right? And, and because of the growing distrust, we'll fight this going down. But again, that's where, again, maybe on the closing aspects of the sales funnel, or even to the middle, but, the top end, I think can still be quite dominated by an AI system.
No, that's fair. I think that the top of the funnel for sure.
And like we said, like commodity sales or the small and medium enterprises, or sales that are very well defined. I need 100 of product A and 200 of product B. Fine.
Yeah, then for sure, agree. And then here's the contract, and just sign or whatever.
Like there was one client that was talking to us about building a voice AI system for after-hour sales, where the construction companies will call them, and they sell like little nuts and bolts, like little like componentry, and where construction companies will call them late in the evening and give them an order, and they need to get it fulfilled as fast as possible, given that they're in the middle of a construction site. So they were asking, is it possible to build a voice AI system that can accept those phone calls, provide all the information on the phone, and then provide a summary that is just able to be fulfilled the next morning, right? And then that's possible. So like that type of sales,
Okay, sounds good. Okay, so we generally agree. I think overall we're aligned.
Yeah.
Okay, very interesting. I think our time is almost up. Maybe could you just distill your 2-3 main takeaways that you would share from our talk today? I know there's a lot of stuff we covered, but if there's just 2-3 things that you think people should take away, what would those be?
Let's see. I think the first one is AI is going to happen. It's inevitable. You need to get on board. That's it. But also in that same sense, like don't believe all the marketing hype. AI is not all encompassing. It's not magic. That's a very hard lesson a lot of companies learn. So, AI in its best form and its most useful form is quite boring. So, in a way, think about the boring applications that can be long lasting for within your businesses. Start small, start very focused on revenue or competitive growth for your first one. And I think the last thing really is be very wary of prototypes that you put in production, and that should not happen. You're in order to cross that gap, the thing that is critically necessary is evaluations. You must have this in order to become, move a prototype to production, and in order to be prepared for the upcoming regulatory compliances that will be put in place.
Okay. Thank you very much, Kenny. There you have it, folks. We're still going to keep our jobs for now. Some of us, at least, it seems. Thank you very much to Kenny and the KeyTechX team. And feel free to check out Kenny's work and the team separately. We'll put that information there.
Great.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.